Okay, let's get into it. Happy Monday. Let's uh let's start this week off good. Can't believe it's already Thanksgiving this week. It's wild. But let's get into it. So as you can see here, um, our analysis was right on. Right on. We knew we were looking for a pullback long off this weekly 653. I took my two shots last week. Crappy price action at open. You can see here. But yeah, you can see here. But if you're able to get into this trade, I told you, this is the dip buy. This is the biggest A plus opportunity. Why? Because you want to be in a trade down here before you get back up here. So this market is still intact. We are still bullish bias, and you can see as of now, Q's is, I'm sorry, SPY seems like it's already about to break through the high day. So I mean, this is beautiful. This is textbook. We knew this is what was setting up, what was coming. So coming into today, I mean, honestly, if I were to trade the SPY, I would just love a break and retest over the 66735, just because you'll also be over the previous day high. So that's also a higher probability setup. We're crazy. We're already pretty much back at the top of the range. If we can get back over the 673, that's also another dip buy opportunity. So for me, if I'm looking for a trade on the SPY today, I would prefer over 66735. But as long as you're above 653, you're bullish bias. So you're just looking for pullback longs. Qs, I mean, textbook, beautiful, right? So we start setting up solid day trade as well. Setting up here for me, I would love, like I've been saying, I would love to see the 61280 turn into support. But coming into today, right, you are bullish bias on this name. I broke this down. I was like a break and retest over 595.85 is a solid setup. It's a solid setup just because, right in the pre-market game plan. Look how strong this key level is. I mean, here, 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 right? So you want to see that, do that. That is a solid setup there. That is a solid setup. And it's also, over the previous day high. I love the confluence there. So you'll be looking for that today on 595.85. Tesla. So Tesla Tesla's Tesla, man. So obviously, right now we're sitting in our no trade zone. So I'm hands off there. As long as we're under 410, I am bearish bias. I'm very open to going short under 398.20. The reason for that being is just look at the 15 minute. Right, there's so much thin volume in here. Price just rips through here. It rips up, it rips down. That's what I want to see. So I'll even go here. Right, look at that, the 2 minute, just straight down, straight up. So, if we can get a break and retest under 398, I like that. But the only way I'm really going to play this is I got to spot clear divergence on Tesla because we can see the overall market, it did its thing. We're already about to bounce. Break through the previous day high. You can see we got some strong momentum right now in the pre-market. So if I'm not really, and you can see right now, Tesla's doing the same thing. So if I'm not spotting any divergence between Tesla and the Qs, I'm going to pass on that. Obviously, if we can get over 410, that's a solid setup as well. So I will be watching Tesla. NVIDIA, pretty much just doing nothing right now. Like I said, I am hands off on NVIDIA as long as we're under 184.50 because that's just a channel on the daily. So this is really, for me, the A plus setup on NVIDIA is over this 184.50. I also love the confluence here because it's over the previous day high. Super solid setup if that occurs. Apple, I'll be looking for a pullback long off this 271.40. This is definitely going to be on my close watch list. We know what we're looking for on Apple. I love that there's a mitigated liquidity at this previous day high. So if we can get a pullback here, this thing can shoot to the top of the range. That'll be super solid. We know we're bullish bias on Apple. Um, this is probably the strongest tech name out of all, to be honest. So we'll be looking for a pullback long on Apple off at 271.40. And then lastly, AMD. So let me go here to AMD. Okay, so the IV, see how the IV is back to normal, right? We've been avoiding AMD for a reason. So my thing here on AMD is I'm pretty much neutral on this name now. As long as we're sitting between 225 and 203, I'm neutral, but I'm leaning more towards the bear side. So that being said, I really wouldn't want to take this to the long side. Maybe, if we can break over 214, because clearly there's nothing in this way if we can get over 214. I mean, you can just see here, right? There's nothing in this way if we get over 214. But the reason I'm a little bit more bearish is because if we can break under the 203, remember that's like a $30 plus gap fill to the downside. Can't forget that. This is, give me one sec. This is all a gap fill. That's all a gap fill. So I love the confluence and setup there just because, we'd be under the previous day low. I'm sorry, not under the previous day low. We'll be bearish bias if we fall under 203 and we have a gap fill to the downside. So I love the objective there. I'll see what sets up at open. I do like a long over 209.25 just because it's also over the previous day high. But to me, a break over this 214.85 is really the best RR trade just because there's nothing in its way to the upside. So I'm going to be watching this on AMD, but my main three going into today is going to be Tesla, NVIDIA, and Apple. If nothing sets up on Tesla, I'm pretty much just going to replace that with AMD. All right, we got about 3 minutes here till market opens. So I actually replaced NVIDIA here with AMD just because NVIDIA is not opening up near any key levels. So here on AMD, really just a break and retest to either side. Obviously, I'm going to see what the overall market is doing. So if we fall under here, we got a gap fill to the downside. And then, if we break and retest over 209.25, you can clearly see it's a key level here, right? Thursday acted very nice as support, and then it turned into resistance here on Friday. So you just want to see a break and retest back above that, and then obviously really nothing in its way if we can fall under 203. So that's what I'll be watching here on the video. I'm sorry, on AMD. And then my main watch really coming into open, it's just going to be really focusing on Apple. We know we're not bearish bias on this name. I know I'm not. So I want to see, either we fall under, get a break and retest again to the upside, or if we just rip, at open, I'll be looking for a pullback long off this 271 for you. About 1 minute here until market opens. Tesla's really just in between 410 and 398, so that's a no trade zone for me. I like Apple. If Apple can give us a solid break and retest, I like it. Um, it didn't sweep the previous day highest liquidity, so that's why I'm really eyeing this as well. This would be a little bit different if it already swept that and then rejected. So we know Apple opens very strong. It's done so the last 3 days, so I wouldn't be surprised if this thing rips and we just don't get a retest. It's exactly what I mean on Apple. Past 3 days in a row. It's just how it opens. It's the previous day high, that 273.33. That's Apple. Like I said, I noticed the pattern like 3 days in a row. That first 15-minute candle is so bullish. It's crazy. Okay, this is moving, but this has a long way to go. We got to get up to 410 if we want to go long, and then hold above 410 as well. Crazy. AMD sitting in between our no trade zone. QQQ is over the previous day high now. Q's in the SPY is rallying, so I love to see that. Just gonna be patient here. I'm probably watching. It's crazy, bro. I just said Apple was gonna do that. It's crazy. Literally for 2 weeks, there's been so much relative strength on this name. Apple looks like it's gonna make an all-time high or a new one. We'll see. It's looking like it. It's definitely looking like it. My watch is probably just gonna be Tesla. Nothing for me on AMD, so that's why I switched from it. While I was finding the Qs. Man, I love that pullback long that we got last week off our weekly level. It's like everyone thought the end was near. Super cool. If you open to AMD, that's exactly what I want to see on AMD before we get a breakout. Our key level on the dot. That tells me I did my job. High day 209.24, seller step in. Our key level is 209.25. Apple's gone. So the thing I like about Apple, right? Because if we're starting to form a channel in here, I'll show you on the daily. Same thing like Google. Then I would just have to wait for a daily candle to form above this 275.95, good displacement, and then we want to see this channel turn into support. So, we ended up getting our setup last week. Like I said, we want to be in a trade down here before we got back up here. Just never got an entry. We've been waiting for this 264.05 for the longest, and we get it on the dot during the pre-market. I got to see how this candle closes here on AMD. Market's strong. Market's really strong. That's exactly what you want to see. Apple's only moved $4 right now, so I'll see. It looks solid. Its first 5 minutes, 635. I want to see how this candle closes here on AMD. I need more displacement here from Tesla before I look to long that. This is where most folks FOMO kicks in. They feel like they missed a trade, or the bigger the displacement, the better. At least for me, that's how I look at it. So single down close candle in the 2 minute time frame for Qs. You can see Apple respecting our 275.90 on the dot. This is why you wait for displacement. Wait for displacement, you avoid fake outs. Qs and SPY pulling back a little bit, so that's what you're seeing here. If some way, somehow, Apple wants to come all the way back down to the bottom of the range, I'm very open to looking for a long there. AMD, you can clearly see is holding up very well. Yeah, AMD's already went, one strike price out of the money to almost two strike prices in the money. It's moving fairly well. Not a single down close candle on AMD. Not a single. Still need that retest though. Yeah, AMD is kind of gone. Bigger displacement, the better. There is divergence here on AMD though compared to the overall market. You can see Apple starting to form now a channel between 275 and 271. Starting to do that. You can see Apple and Tesla pulling back a little bit. AMD's holding up. Qs and SPY are pulling back very heavy. Yeah, there's clear divergence on AMD. Clear divergence. AMD's doing his own thing right now. Reason I said I like this, right? Look at the key level here, and it's also above the previous day high. So, that's a high probability shot. Outside of the channel, above the previous day high. It's really nothing in its way. I want to see if we can still retest this. Nothing on the video, clearly. The video's the only one that's really not doing anything. Still bullish bias here on, well, if we get over 410. Yeah, AMD's solid. You see, we just never got a retest here. I mean, the move's not over yet, but there is a lot of divergence on this name. It's pretty much the only setup for me. It's still pretty early, so I'm seeing, maybe if I'm sorry, Tesla can clean up a little bit. We'll see. It's flirting with this 410, that's for sure. There's a strong 15-minute on Tesla. That's a solid 15. We're sitting above the previous day high. You can see sellers are stepping in aggressively, though, pushing this thing lower. Apple's holding up with this heavy pullback. The deeper the pullback, the better. The deeper the pullback, the tighter the risk. So market's pulling back heavy right now. So yeah, that's too much of an aggressive entry, at least for me. Market's pulling back like way too heavy. That was a retest there. That's just too much of an aggressive entry for me. Solid though. That quick, we went from 209 to 210, like over $1 move. So these are some pretty big candles right now, some big wicks. So that was just too aggressive for me to pull the trigger. If we can get this pullback again before we take out this high day, then I like it. That's the only way. There is divergence here on AMD though compared to over market. Tesla's flirting with this 410. It's definitely flirting with this 410. There's a major retest here on AMD. That was just too aggressive for me. Like playing on a wick is just, that's tough. Because if you don't wait for that candle to close and then you get stopped out, you're like, damn, I wish I waited for the candle to close. But that was just too aggressive for me, especially with the market pulling back hard. That was our retest though. That was definitely our retest. So next play, probably like 214.85. If we get up there, we'll see. I'm really trying to be patient here on Tesla. It's not necessarily a Tesla bias, but this thing is it's trying to flirt with it. Like we keep pulling back, and these big wicks are showing me, okay, buyers are stepping up here. Yeah, that was your retest right here. If you caught that, that was just too aggressive for me to take. I was not taking that. If AMD wants to get over 214.85, right? I'm not fighting this momentum and trend. I'm sorry, in trend. Like I said, over 214.85, there's nothing in this way. It's a solid RR. I mean, we can see how much AMD can move in a day. All you got to do is look left. So, right, a lot of thin volume in here. We're already above the previous day high. You can see it's clearly a resistance level here. So, SPY's actually about to break through the low a day. See, I don't like that. I mean, Tesla is holding up, but I'd rather it just stay heavy, like it's trying to hold up, but this is the only name that I'm really willing to short. So if we can get way back to 398.20 and fall into that, I'm very open to it. If Qs can pull back and it holds this 598.85 and that can correlate with AMD, then I like a long on AMD. But if Qs and SPY also give up this 595 on this pullback, right? If we don't hold this and we fall under that, I don't like that on AMD. So we'll see. So I'm watching AMD, I'm sorry, SPY and QQQ to my left, which AMD and the Q seem to be in sync now. SPY just pulled back and retested 661.80 on the dot, so we'll see. The video wants to stay heavy. This 173.15, that's our key level here to read. So we'll see. But as of now, for the video, just inside bar day, just dead smack in the middle of the range. Like I said, I'm neutral on AMD. So if Qs wants to stay heavy, I'm probably just gonna pass on that. Look at Tesla though. The only reason I'm really intrigued by Tesla is this thing is holding up on the 15-minute. Look at this, it's holding up, right? It's also above the previous day high. So it's like if this thing can set up, I like it. There's nothing in its way. We know 410 the key level. What I would like for on Tesla is like a break through the high a day, candle close, and then a retest. Yeah, like that. I can't take a trade over this until we get like a proper candle close. Like I would love for this candle to close very bullish. A couple of minutes here, seconds here. Okay, now I'll look for the retest here. Nope. I need this candle to close. Very volatile, so just got to be patient. Market just pulling back right now too, so it's just not the best price action. Trying to be very patient. Like technically SPY is trending lower even though it's holding. Yeah, trying to read this. See what I mean? I'm gonna get one more little pullback here, maybe. We really only have 4 minutes of like really holding this level. Looking at the cleanest price action on, AMD and Tesla right now. Look at the price action on Qs itself is not too clean. Look at that. I'm looking at Apple. The price action can clean up a little bit on Tesla, then pull back. I like it, but these are some big wicks, big candles, right? It's very risky. Okay, so the SPY and the Qs are about to break back. Well, Qs is about to break through its high today. Let's see. Right, if the price action's trash and it's all over the place, I'm gonna skip it, That's still risk management. Like look at the price action on Apple. If you're ever pulling back, but it's clean. Look at Tesla's price action, right? Look at AMD's price action. So I wanted a little bit of a deeper pullback here because even if you got in here, you got this push to 212 and then we pulled all the way back. So if I'm looking for Tesla, I mean, this is already a $3 plus breakout. It's solid. That's very, like, these are some aggressive entries, right? That's very aggressive, especially with the market pulling back. Because right now, there is no divergence between Tesla and the Qs. You can see they're in sync. They're in sync. So if Tesla's pulling back and so are the Qs, I'm not going to go long if Tesla starts to show a little bit of buyers while the Qs are pulling back. 7:01, so market's been open for 30 minutes now. Beautiful pullback here to 661.80 on SPY. On the dot. On the dot. Yeah, pretty volatile open, at least for Tesla. AMD price action is not that good. So, if I get another pullback, I could target the swing high, but if not, pretty much a cash day for me. I'm not going to force anything. Okay, so Qs is now over the high of day. So this bounce you see here is SPY, pulling back and holding is 661.80. You can see Tesla and the Qs are in sync. So that's why this is a pretty much a hard long entry just due to, Qs pulling back. Apple still needs to retest this 271.40. kind of what I'm looking for now. Like, see, this was the better pullback. You just never got a deep enough pullback here on AMD. This was like the better entry. You can see just straight up. Yeah, you would have got in here. Your thesis still would have been valid, sitting above 209. But as soon as you got this push into the high day, right? Like, these are the type of plays I like. Like, we get a big displacement, and now we can target the swing high. So see here on Tesla, like this 414, I love this swing high on the intraday. So it's like if we can pull back here and target there, that's solid. So what am I kind of looking for on most of these names, right? Like this, that's solid, targeting, top of this range, right? We never got a deep enough pullback here. Could target this, but this is solid too. That's a super nice RR trade over 214.85. This still needs a retest. We're bullish bias on this. If we can get in here before we slow grind back to up here, that's solid as well. So that's kind of just how I'm reading these right now. That's all I just love the displacement above this, right? You knew you were looking for a long over 595.85 here on the Qs, just because you're also over the previous day high. So we'll see. I will respect this key level on the dot. I'm even open to AMD because I know AMD can actually move a good dollar amount in the range. If you played that pullback long off the weekly on SPY, you're chilling. You just doubled or tripled, your small account pretty much. So I'm really just looking at AMD now. I know I've had times where, I've waited over an hour on this pullback here on Tesla. So we'll see. I'll be very patient. This was like this is a better pullback entry here if you just got a deep enough pullback. Like, look at AMD, right? I mean, this thing can move in a day, and this is the 15-minute time frame. Now, this thing can move in a day. So that's why I'm really trying to read this. If I do get a nice break and retest over 214.85, that's solid. But I understand, if I get that setup or take that, that is going to be, a slow grinder, a slow mover. I can't even necessarily say like Apple has relative weakness just because this thing rocketed to the upside at open. Like, we already pushed all the way to the top of the range at open and rejected. So not kind of, did complete its objective. We ripped through the high day, made a new high on the weekly. So just not surprised here. But you can see, right, you start to pay attention to these things. Every time we push up into this range, sellers step in and push it down. So I would love to see the top of this range turn into support. If you're able to catch the break and retest on 410, that was a solid setup. Very aggressive entry. Very aggressive entry. But if you're able to catch that, kudos. Like, this candle being completely bearish, right? And then it closes up here, and you get another retest, and this candle is also red while the market's pulling back. Like, that was an aggressive entry, but if you're able to catch that, kudos. Like I said, if I'm not spotting divergence on a stock compared to the overall market, I'm not pulling the trigger as quick when I see aggressive buyers step in, right? Because right now, Tesla and the Qs are in sync. These two names are in sync. Right? I mean, look at this wick here, right? On Tesla. Look at this wick here on Qs. These two names are in sync. So when we were retesting right here and the market was pulling back, I'm not going long there. Absolutely not. Tesla's pulling back. QQQ is pulling back. You see what I mean there? Now, Cube and SPY are definitely identical twins right now. If we don't get a step on Tesla, kind of expected. I mean, this was a channel, so we kind of just broke us out of this channel. The video is trash. Like I said, NVIDIA will really give you one setup a week, maybe two. Right, history likes to repeat itself. We know Tesla. Right, every time we get over 410, look, we shoot all the way to the top of the range. So we know 410 is our key level here. Being gapped up overnight. It's crazy. Hmm. I'm pretty much no longer interested in AMD off of 209.25. I took strength on Tesla more than that, but you can see, right? Keys are pulling back, Tesla's pulling back. It's been roughly 20 minutes since we've been above 410, so this thing might just start trending on the Qs. Qs have a very strong, I'm sorry, since I had a very strong open too. We opened at 4.1. This thing's at 4.14. So as soon as it gets to like 4.15, 4.20-ish, if we get a break and retest over 4.19, I'm pretty much hands off. Because now I know at that point we're a little bit extended. If Apple can give us a deeper pullback, I like it. Some people are afraid to go long here. Like I said, last week the A plus setups don't look like an A plus setup. But if you know what you're looking for, they're the solid entries. And then another thing about Tesla I'm noticing is, I mean, who knows, maybe today, but every time it gets over, this 419, it fails. It can't seem to hold above this. That's something I'm noticing. Never really got my conservative retest here on 410. Entering like in here, that was very aggressive. We kept pushing in wicks, bearish candle. This was bearish, went red to green. I wanted to see this candle then pull back, right? I'm very big on waiting for my candles to close and then retest. Hmm. It's a pretty big, it's a key level here. It's a weekly. Yeah. If you're able to get like a pullback long, if that would occur off this 220.50 on Amazon, that's a solid setup. All right, we're starting to break this downtrend right now. Yeah, solid here on Tesla. We knew we were looking at 410. Just never really got a retest. Like this is very aggressive. And like I said, this in the market is in sync. There's no divergence here. So, if I see buyer step up here and the market's pulling back heavy, I'm not taking that shot because I'm not spotting any divergence. Apple looks good. I just wish we got a pullback deep enough here. I mean, AMD might just sit in between now because AMD had a pretty big open too. A lot of these things ripped. What is this? AMD opened at 205.84, percent at 213. So, for AMD, that is a pretty solid move. I'm gonna just keep it at even number. So about an $8 move on AMD. Tesla's already over $15 on the day. It opened at around 401. So we're sitting at 416. What else? Apple opened at 270. I'm gonna just round this to 271. We push all the way to 275. I'm around that to 276. So, I mean, honestly, very explosive open on a lot of these names. I mean, look at the first 2 minute candles on these names. AMD didn't have a red down close candle until 642. Market open at 630. Tesla basically moved $8 in one candle. So a lot of these names really exploded to the upside. Even the Qs and SPY. This is a good setup, honestly. Starting to cook up here on Amazon. What is this? 226.38. Not enough displacement for me. Maybe something like here, and then a retest. I'm curious to see what this would do. Amazon's too much of a slow mover from at least on a Monday. On a Monday, it's like, I'm good. SPY is really holding a lot of these names up. I mean, this was textbook on SPY. This was literally textbook. You played off the key level, the pre-market game plan. You literally had one down close candle, and you were able to sit in this all the way up into the high day. That is solid. That's solid. It's about 7:20. I'm about 10 minutes away from market being open for an hour. So we'll see. I think a lot of these names, for sure, Apple is exhausted. This is still a possibility here on Tesla. We'll have to see. But you can see it's starting out. It's holding structure, right? If it can do that, I wouldn't be surprised. If AMD just does that, not surprised. I don't really like this anymore. That sets up. I mean, this is solid just because it's a bigger RR trade as well. And then I was really looking for a deeper pullback here on Apple, right? Kind of risking right under here. I'm comfortable with that on a Monday. Why? Because Apple broke this level, but it never retested it. So I'm just looking for a trade on Amazon, but honestly, it's a super solid setup on the higher time frame. I think a better entry would have been a pullback long off this 220.50, just because it's the start, of that trend break-in. But you can clearly see, and this is a solid setup right here. Yeah, it's nice. We didn't even really gap above. Held the previous day high perfect. Hmm. See, AMD's a little heavy. I mean, and this is pretty much, how AMD moves. You never really had, like, at least for me, the cleanest price action was really, this rip here from market open, like all that, and then this. Other than that, it was kind of just like this, and then this. So I really wanted this to give that a shot. All right, and then if you watch my trading recap, like I gave you last week, now what I was really looking for here on Tesla is, I mean, obviously this is a very big candle. That's a very big candle. But I wanted, kind of a displacement, like how we got here on AMD, right? Because then it's like, okay, you got to swing high. You know, I enter here. Keep in mind, these candles are not formed yet. So it's like I'm really entering, a momentum push, and then I got to expect some type of pullback. So I really wanted a higher swing high target just so I can target that, you know what I mean? And then see if that can do that. Because I mean, this was the high day. We pretty much just ripped through the high day, right? So I wanted to see like a good, nice displacement through the high day and then a retest. Super solid there if that's set up. So, this is way too aggressive, in my opinion. I'm a risk manager before I'm a trader. No, Tesla's trending. It's definitely trending. AMD is just like a chop right now. Nothing on the video. Nothing in there. Nothing in here. 184.50 is like really our A plus setup, to be honest. Or if we just get another pullback off of 173. Let's see. So Apple once again, about 2 days in a row, maybe 3 days in a row on Apple, we break a key level and just does not give us a retest. I've just noticed a pattern there, like that first 15 minute on Apple is just a rocket to the upside. I would say out of everything, the only thing that really set up today um, is really Tesla. If you're able to catch that, it would have been an aggressive entry, but if you're able to catch that, that was solid. QQQ, it did break over 595.85, just didn't get a retest. That's pretty much it, just didn't get a retest. I purposely didn't include AMD on the pre-market watch list. But I mean, this is like the first time in 2 weeks this name IV has come down. Go watch those previous videos, right? This IV was sitting at 90, 100. I'm not touching that. You don't want to play high IVs. You'll just get crushed on them as soon as like that pull. If it pulls back against you, you're done before your stop loss even gets hit. So finally, right, it's back in normal range. That's why it's very important to know the personality of your stock and then always look at the IV. First thing I always look for when market opens is are we sitting in between previous day high, previous day low, and you can see it's just dead smack middle of the range here on the video. So this was just a higher probability shot because of this. But I'm making the assumption, we're going to stay under 184.50. So even if this sets up tomorrow, we'll also be over today's previous day high and this key level. So to me, this is just like a play that's setting up. Let's see. This is probably going to be a cash day for me. The market's only been open for an hour and five, so I'm really just trying to see what Tesla would do over 419. But other than that, pretty much a cash day for me. This is really like the only setup here. That's pretty much the only setup, but that was just too aggressive for me, so I skipped it. You can actually kind of see here. Give me one sec. Yeah, AMD's pushed up high enough, right? Yeah, like this is the better RR trade over 214.85. Even this was an aggressive entry. That was very aggressive. I ended up passing on that. I'm noticing AMD's pretty much pulling back while the market is moving higher, but I'm no longer interested in taking a trade off at AMD. It's already moved a pretty big amount. You can see we're just sitting sideways. We're just doing that. This is the only one I'm really like watching. Huge, not the best price action, but starting to move higher. I mean, you can see every 15-minute candle straight upside. And if you were looking for the break and retest over 595.85, got the breakout, good displacement, just never a deep enough pullback. Unless you took this trade based on SPY's retest, but that's a little bit more advanced trading. See, on average, Q's moves about $5 to $7 in a day. As of now, it's already moved, $5. So understanding that, it's like I wouldn't trust or I wouldn't play over 602.85. You definitely could, play along over this, but like next week cons or I'm sorry, end of week cons or I guess even next day, but you got to understand, this thing has already moved a little bit above its average on a day. SPY though, SPY was your game. Like if you caught SPY, you've really been cashing out. I mean, as long as we're above 653 with bullish bias, you're just looking for break and retest and pull back longs. So we ended up pulling back. That's beautiful. I mean, that is textbook here on the SPY. Not much here on Amazon. Like I said, you would want to wait for more displacement. So I didn't like this. What is this? This is 226.40, and then our key level here is 226.10. So to me, that just wasn't enough displacement. So you kind of want this high day push, candle close up here, and then look for the retest. So this setup you kind of see here, this is really what I was looking for here on Tesla. So I hope that makes sense when I say, kind of an aggressive entry. Because, I mean, this was our high day, and we kept rejecting this, right? We kept rejecting this. So that's what I meant by like, yeah, this is kind of an aggressive entry. I would want to see like a candle close up here, which it did, and then, we get a pullback here, and then I see aggressive buyer step in. That instant retest with that big wick, and then that candle doesn't close, and you're going long into, this high day. That's just a very aggressive entry. I'm just trying to like explain that a little thoroughly to you. Like it depends, right? It depends on the day of the week as well. Like I love a momentum play, right, on a zero DTE or on a Thursday or Friday. I love a momentum play, but it's Monday, right? I know I can sit in these a little bit longer. I manage these different. So like this is like the beautiful breakout here, displacement you would want to see, right? Something like that, and then you get this retest. That's like exactly what you want to see. So never really got that here on Tesla, right? You can see here, you got your candle closed here, but that's a very big candle. Look at this candle. Wait for it to close. This goes bearish. We rip through under. I did like how this candle formed. Like I liked that the body of the candle closed here. Now I was just looking for that, but never really got it. Or I just wanted like a bigger displacement through this high day like this, and then something like that. So that's what I mean when I say, hold your water, be patient. 7:42 for me. So if nothing really sets up at 8 a.m., I'm gonna call it just a cash day for me, to be honest. It's more than fine with me. I mean, definitely, if you caught AMD, well, like I said, I didn't have this on the pre-market plan, but I'm like biased on this name. Like I'm neutral. I mean, as long as AMD is in between, you know, 225 and 203, I'm neutral on this name. But then these are like opportunities that I see that's setting up for the next day. I teach you, always think of your next 100 trades. So the way that my mind is thinking right now is, let's say AMD, on the daily, we close under 214.85. Now I see this as perfect, right? I got my two key levels here, 214.85. So, if this sets up tomorrow, right, I get a break over my key level, will be over the previous day high. And this is a big RR trade and a lot of thin volume in here. That's how my mind's thinking. So to me, it's like I don't ever see it as like, oh, I missed a trade or anything like that. I understand on average I'm taking maybe this month's been a little bit different. The market's been hot, but on average I'm taking maybe what 2 to 3 trades in a week. So I just see it as like, all right, this is setting up. This is setting up. If this can set up tomorrow, that's perfect. Even here on Apple, like I'm already thinking ahead on Apple. Like what am I looking for to catch the next highest probability setup? You can clearly see here, all right, everything I always teach you. I want to see this channel turn to support. So we're starting to form a channel now in between these two key levels. So I want to see, a big daily candle form above this. We get a pullback, right? The wick is here, and then we target right the top of this range. That's exactly what I want to see. So there's no coincidence here. Every single time, our 275.90, look at this on the dot. Every time we push up into this, sellers push this down. So how do I see this? A lot of built up liquidity. So we can't be surprised if we get a very big breakout on the daily. We got to wait for that to close. And then, the following day or two, we're just waiting for this pullback to retest to 275.90. We see that all the time, all the time. Like I said, this was the dip buy. I've been saying that, we can get in down here before we get back up here. That's solid. We ended up getting, our retest on the dot during the pre-market. So it's nothing we could do about that. But we were hawking this, right? We're back up here. So super solid. Like I've been saying, honestly, Apple just looks the best on, at least on the technical analysis side, on the daily, on the higher time frame. Like just clean price action, in my opinion. Like, we trend higher, consolidation, next leg higher, consolidation, next leg higher, consolidation, next leg higher. So Apple honestly just looks like a textbook type, name right now. It really, really does. And then, I told you I noticed this pattern here. Look at today, like look at the past 4 days on the 15 minute. Look at the first 15-minute candles the past 4 days. Today, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. So I'm noticing, 4 days in a row, every time Apple opens, this thing just rockets to the upside. So, before market open today, a couple of seconds, I would not be surprised if we just rip through this thing and we don't get a retest, because that's just been the pattern, and that's exactly what happens today. So, so yeah, I'm most likely going to call it here. I really just don't see anything setting up. Um, you can see this pullback we're seeing a little bit. It's just like Qs and SPY, pushing into its key resistance level, rejecting. Solid day on the Qs and SPYs. I mean, I know the day's not over, but as long as it pretty much stays over, this previous day high, pretty solid day. I mean, textbook here on the SPY. So the way I see these things are like, I hope I explained that to you well. Like I'm always thinking about my next 100 trades. I'm always planning in my head. So for me, when I have a cash day, I'm like, yeah, today was just either a low probability day or this play is still setting up. I hope that makes sense. Like Google, right? I told you guys last week. Now, what am I looking for on Google on this daily? We can clearly see like we're starting to form a channel in here. So what else? I want a big displacement candle and then a retest here. You can see that's also the dip buy. I want to enter here before we get back up here. So now we have a swing high up here and we have this gap to fill, but we know Google is so strong compared to the overall market. I would say the two strongest low names right now is probably Apple and Google. So consolidation, next leg higher. Consolidation, next leg higher. So now I'm just waiting for this if we get that. I mean, this thing is so strong. So, and then we ended up gapping today, right? I mean, that's how strong we are. We gapped above and made another all-time high. So but this is cool. I don't want anything in here. So slowly but surely, it may take a day, it may take two, it may take three. I'm just waiting for that, right? That's my shot. I want to be in a trade down here before I get back up here. So I just see this as like play setting up. Tomorrow, AMD looks solid. If we can get one over 214.85, I'll prefer it to the daily to close under this 214.85 today. Apple, either we're just going to look for a pullback long over off of 271.40 or break and retest over 275.90. Now, at least for Apple and me, I might read this a little differently here now because now this is starting to be a channel, right? Well, it is. This in between 275 and 271. Like you can see, the proof is here that every time we push up into 275.90, sellers step in every single time. So it's been very hard for us to get above this. So depending on how price action looks and all that, I mean, we know we're bullish bias. um, I would just be hands off. If tomorrow, if we stay in between 275 and 271, I'm most likely just gonna mark this out as a no trade zone, and I'm only gonna be looking for a trade over 275 or a pullback long off of 264. Right? Because I mean, you can clearly see it's a channel now. We're just sitting sideways. I mean, we see this curling up. I was really hoping we got like a deeper pullback to 271.40. Never did. Okay. Yeah, so I think I'm calling here. Really nothing from me today. Super solid setup here on the Qs. I'm sorry. On SPY, I would say like the main setup, if you're able to catch that, was really the SPY today. Really SPY. You're not looking to short. So if you just played off your key levels today, I mean, pull back long off of this. That was solid. Um, Never really got a good conservative entry here on AMD. I was watching it. Like I mean, this is good displacement, right? I would say body of the candle closed at 211.41. Our key level is 209.25. That's a solid displacement candle. So on this pullback, right, this big wick, that's an aggressive entry for me, right? Super aggressive because I'm not spotting, at the time. I think there was a little bit of divergence here. Yeah, there was a little bit of divergence here on AMD, but I want my candle to close. I want this candle to close because if you enter on a wick, and I'll explain this to you on because I know some people are like, how is it an aggressive entry? Because I've been down this road. So what makes it very aggressive is let's say you enter on this very aggressive wick, right? Keep in mind you're getting filled as this thing is moving higher. So if it's an aggressive wick, you're getting filled as this thing's moving higher. Let's say you get filled here or you get filled here. Now, look how wide your stop loss is. You see what I mean there? So if it plays out, perfect. But as soon as you pull back and you're still sitting above your key level, you're already in drawdown. Now, of course, there's no perfect entry, but like I always say, the deeper the pullback, the better because the tighter the risk. So that's why I'm not entering here, on these wicks here on Tesla because we're pushing into this high today, and sellers keep stepping in aggressively pushing this thing lower. So I don't really have enough displacement here, and I don't like that. I don't really have a big swing high to target. And then these wicks step up, and we know it's Tesla. So let's say you get filled here on this wick. That's a 75 cent, difference from your key level, or even here, 78 cent, and then your stop loss has to be a candle close down here. You know what I mean? So that's why I really like to wait for my candle to close and then see that momentum step in a little bit. It's different if I'm playing a pullback long and we've already gapped above that level. I hope that makes sense. I really do. You can get away with it on a Monday because you don't have theta. The contracts aren't going to be as aggressive. So, the time of day, all that stuff that comes into play too. So I recommend, if you ever want to be aggressive, and I'm not teaching you to be aggressive, if you ever want to be aggressive, Monday's the day to do it for obvious reasons, right? Monday's the day to do it. You don't want to be aggressive on a Thursday or on a Friday. You know what I mean? So I really hope that makes sense. But yeah, catch it here for me. I hope you guys were able to learn something. I hope you guys had a good day, good start of the week, and I will see you all tomorrow.